Now, a lot of what we talked about so far is collaboration within the organization, with your peers, with your colleagues within the organization. And right at the beginning, Heidi talked about specialization, right? That we as individuals tend to become increasingly specialized over time, but so do our organizations, right? For our organizations to be successful, those organizations need to be leaders in their market, in their sphere, and they can't be leaders in everything, right? And so increasingly, we see organizations needing to partner with other organizations in order to do the same thing at the organizational level that we talked about on the individual level, right? To really bring together expertise from others in order to solve bigger problems than an organization could solve by itself. So the question is, right, how do you do that? This partnership, particularly across organizations, can be incredibly challenging. So one of the keys is to be very selective about which of your partnerships are really strategic. Which of those are really going to benefit from smarter collaboration? You may have a vendor relationship where they're supplying you paper and pencils. Probably not the most strategic relationship that you have. But if you're a biotech, you might be partnering with distribution organizations or organizations that really understand product development, right? Those may be really strategic, critical partnerships to your business. And those are the ones that are going to warrant the investment in smarter collaboration. Second, it's really important to understand your own culture. Not all organizations are really ready to collaborate effectively. If they're not collaborating effectively internally, it's going to make it very difficult to collaborate across organizations. Many organizations have an us versus them culture, right? Or a culture that says, we're going to do everything ourselves, right? We can do it. Why do we need to partner with somebody else? Or even a very, what I call a laissez-faire culture, where there's really not a lot of coordination. You know, you might sign a partnership and you just kind of hope it's going to bubble along by itself, right? So you really need to think about how you manage your culture and how you manage the cultures across the two organizations. And then the third point is around building champions at the senior level, right? What we found is that it's critical to have executive level senior champions advocating for these partnerships, right? These the rest of the organization needs to get that signaling from the top of the house that these partnerships are worth investing in because they take time, they take effort, right? They take expense. And so it's really important to have that senior advocacy at the top of the house, championing and personally showing their commitment to these types of partnerships. And then the last thing that I'd mention is that things change over time. There was a question in the chat about the benefits of persistence in teams. Is it helpful to have people working together for longer periods of time? On the one hand, yes, right? People get to know each other. They understand how to operate with each other. The challenge is that both on projects within organizations and in cross-organizational partnerships, right? Things change over time. Priorities change, strategies change, even people change on the teams. And so it's very important to review these strategic partnerships periodically, right? Maybe they're working and you continue. Maybe you say, well, actually, priorities have changed, strategies have changed. This is not as strategic as it was before, and we're going to de-emphasize the relationship. Or maybe you've just had people who've moved on, and so you need that sort of relaunch to reinvigorate things and get them going back at the level that they were in the past. So you have to be very thoughtful about how these partnerships are going to evolve over time and the investment that's required to keep them going.
So Ivan, what happens if some of the change happens at the top of the house? You said, people change. So what happens if you have a new senior leader coming in? What are your best ideas for how to orient that person who's, say, new to the organization about which of these outside relationships are most strategic?
Yeah. Well, I think that's where this idea of review is really important, right? It's important to level set as to why are we in this relationship in the first place? Why did we enter into this? What did we see as the strategic opportunity? and how's it progressing, right? And hopefully develop that advocacy in the new leader as well. But again, this happens in any organization, right? The people who are directly responsible for the partnership can change. People at the top of the house can change. People at the, the day-to-day operational level can change. So it is really important for, because change happens across the organization, to actually continually communicate why this is important, why it's worth investment, and what the organization expects to get out of it.
Absolutely. So there's a question in here as well about how do quote unquote entrepreneurs come to play regarding collaboration within and outside the organization? And what about entrepreneurs, startups, and innovation labs or accelerators as collaboration hubs? So those are so many different types of partnerships or collaboration initiatives across different organizations. Do you want to speak to what you've seen, Ivan?
Yeah, it's a huge question, but I think I guess I think of that as multiple avenues to find the types of expertise that you need to make your organization successful. So if you're an entrepreneur, right, you might be thinking about where are those internal partnerships and collaborations that are going to help your project be successful. If you're an early stage startup, you might be working with an accelerator to try to find mentors or advisors who can help your organization. So, a little bit depends on what the stage of the project is, but all of those are avenues to try to find expertise, different points of view that you can bring together to create those collaborations.
Absolutely. And I think those different kinds of structures are exactly, Ivan, what you're saying. They're ways to facilitate smarter collaboration across actors who might not bump into each other otherwise. And because you have lots of expertise that is sometimes trapped in silos, those kinds of structures like the hubs make it more likely that people will be able to find and connect with one another.
I was chatting with a former CEO a couple of weeks ago, and he said something that resonated to me. He said he hates networking, right? He hates the idea of networking because networking for him is a very superficial act, right? What he's looking for, his view is it's not about networking. It's about developing an understanding of the people that you're connecting with and really sharing ideas, right? Understanding where their expertise is, understanding their points of view, and having those challenging conversations that can bring you, new ideas, new points of view, and help push you forward in your thing. I thought that was a really interesting angle about not just the superficial relationships, the superficial networks, but the actual deep sort of sharing of ideas and collaboration to really drive things forward.
Absolutely. I remember somebody saying that interacting without substance is just pure networking, whereas interacting with substance is collaborative. And I think that difference is where some of these hubs come into play, because you'll have, for lack of a better word, the excuse to interact with people, knowing that you're coming together on particular topics. And this is the biotech hub here in Boston. You're much more likely to bump into people who are engaging the same sorts of problems and opportunities. They have those kinds of experiences, and that sort of substantively driven interaction is where the power of collaboration really comes in.